Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to the channel. It's your boy, World of Wrestling, here today to discuss about WWE Raw from January 13th, 2025, from last night. Last night's episode actually was a far better improvement compared to last week. Last week was a fun, entertaining wrestling show, per se, but a storyline driven that was not to be found in that episode last week. This episode actually was a lot better when it came to storyline driven stuff for us to be hyped up for the Royal Rumble. A lot of new entries into the Royal Rumble itself. It looks like it's going to be a very stacked Royal Rumble for the first time in a while. Quite a few things happened on Raw. The Raw was actually only 2 hours and 30 minutes when the show ended. I thought it was 11 o'clock. I looked up, and it was actually 10:30. I'm like, what the hell? They finished 30 minutes earlier than normal? I was like, sweet. I can enjoy the rest of the night. So that's basically what I did, and here I am doing this review with you guys. Personally, the beginning of the show is awesome. Punk went ahead, addressed that he's being entered into the Royal Rumble. He actually takes some Yeet glasses, these Jey Uso glasses from a kid, and does a Yeet thing and then gives it back to the kid. Punk stands on top of the commentary table and grabs a microphone before entering the ring. Another CM Punk chant fires up, and Punk says he loves San Jose. Before we get to his business, he wants to acknowledge the firefighters and first responders in the great state of California and the surrounding states as they fight this terrible natural disaster. For the entertainment portion of the evening, Punk asks, is it good to be alive on a Monday night in San Jose or what? There was a lot of pressure on him with the Netflix debut last week. Did you see the straight edge superstar beat the Messiah, Seth Rollins? Punk has a lot of things on his plate, but Rollins isn't one of them anymore. Last year at the Royal Rumble, it was his first televised match in WWE in over a decade. It didn't go his way. Even his tricep was separated from the bone. Punk's dreams weren't, which were always so scary that people couldn't see him. He couldn't see them anymore. Punk does John Cena's "You Can't See Me" taunt, and the crowd is actually shocked. A lot of people don't see a neon sign that says WrestleMania hanging in the crowd, but he sees it. Punk made his biggest setback his biggest comeback. Speaking of comebacks, the man who famously says, "You can't see me," John Cena, Punk sees him and always has. Punk sees that Cena has declared himself for the Royal Rumble, but Punk is here also to do that as well, and Punk will throw 29 superstars over the top rope, whether they can see him or not. Then you'll hear his music, and Punk tells them to play his song, and then it plays Seth Rollins' song instead. From there, Punk looks incredibly frustrated. He said, couldn't Rhea Ripley actually be the one that comes out instead of Seth Rollins? I thought that was funny. Rollins slowly makes his way to the ring and gets in. Punk stares at Rollins, who is sporting a nasty bruise on his right eye, and Rollins says he knows Punk isn't happy to see him, but he shouldn't be surprised. Last week, Rollins told him he'd be in this ring, win, lose, or draw. He's a man of his word. If he weren't and didn't show up when times were hard, that wouldn't be Rollins. That would be Punk, and Punk asks, but I'd be the winner still, right? Rollins says he would rather be the worst version of himself than be any version of Punk. He lost a lot of big matches, title matches, and WrestleMania matches, but last week was the worst loss of his career. Rollins has never been more disappointed that he underestimated Punk and he didn't get the job done on the biggest stage of his life. I didn't know Raw was the biggest stage. I thought it was WrestleMania, but I guess the way Raw was being treated last week, I guess you could say it was WrestleMania, not Monday Night Raw. The only way Rollins can get redemption is to take Punk's WrestleMania dreams and flush them down the toilet. Punk isn't going to win the Royal Rumble because he's going in the Royal Rumble. He's going to win the Royal Rumble as well. Punk says it's every man for himself. All he sees is a guy that couldn't pin him, so he's trying to take the easy way out by throwing him over the top rope. Drew McIntyre's music hits, and Punk shouts, "You've got to be kidding me." Drew McIntyre stays on the stage. McIntyre says they're both self-serving. Punk says the last time he saw McIntyre, he was on his knees with tears in his eyes, bleeding on his mat, and pleading for his life. If McIntyre takes one more step, he'll take more than 15 staples to close a wound. McIntyre says it might be a shock to Punk, but he wasn't talking to him. He was talking to Rollins. Rollins says Punk's invitation is now his invitation. He'll stomp McIntyre's head into the mat. McIntyre says they should feel like they're looking into a mirror. The only difference is Punk admits that he's a big piece of crap. McIntyre says Rollins acts like a big leader, but when everyone was doing their part in tribal combat, Rollins was nowhere to be found. Rollins was worried about his selfish agenda and his little match, and then he lost the match anyway. It's pathetic. Rollins says he has no patience for McIntyre, and Punk says he has no patience for McIntyre or Rollins. So Punk is out of time. If one of these jerks want to swing, he's right here. I love this segment. It was all over the place, and the story, all three of these men are intertwined in this triangle of competition, hate, whatever you want to call it. I absolutely love it. It is something that we don't normally see on pro wrestling content. And I think this is excellent stuff. I mean, you can't ask for better stuff. Everything sways together. You got Seth Rollins, who claims he can't stand Roman Reigns. He doesn't like CM Punk. Punk doesn't like Seth Rollins. Drew McIntyre doesn't like Roman Reigns. And Drew McIntyre doesn't like CM Punk. And he thought, Seth Rollins was a guy who was a leader and didn't like Roman Reigns. Why wouldn't he do anything during the Roman Reigns match last week and have some sort of, intervene in the match in some way to alter the way the match would turn out to be? And none of that occurred with him. So obviously McIntyre had a reason to say something. Drew McIntyre was involved in the match. So was Kevin Owens. So Seth Rollins was really nowhere to be found. It was really crazy. And it was excellent stuff, what they did here. McIntyre and Seth also do have a rivalry, but it's strictly over competition. It's nothing personal. It was over the world title a couple of times. But other than that, there was nothing major going on between those two. But now it's starting to get personal because McIntyre's agenda is worrying about Roman Reigns like how Seth Rollins was, and now all of a sudden he's not. So that's becoming a problem with Drew McIntyre with Seth Rollins. So he says Rollins gets fired up and McIntyre suggests a triple threat match, and McIntyre heads to the ring before asking why he'd ever do that. There's a bigger problem going on. Roman Reigns is playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers. McIntyre is always a reluctant hero, but he'll step up for the locker room. Yeah, you're such a fucking leader and a hero. Sure. If only there were a way for him to get the title before Reigns does. Wait, there is. McIntyre says he'll see them in the Royal Rumble. I love it. I fucking love it. Thought it was great. Alright, so we get some arrivals with Damian Priest, Chad Gable, the Judgment Day, so on and so forth, and yada yada yada. We then get a match, our first match with Chad Gable versus Pentagon Jr. This was a fucking awesome match. You saw some things that Penta would do in the indies, but you also saw him do the WWE way. So there was like a serious compromise between himself and the company's way of doing things in the ring. And Chad Gable, my God, man, I feel so bad for him. He's always placed in situations where he can't get a W. I mean, this match he couldn't get a W. You can't have Penta come in and take a L on his debut match. That's just ridiculous. But for Chad Gable to go out there and constantly give himself an L or jobbing for others is either a great thing by him wanting to put over other talent, or they don't see any value in him in the sense of like pushing him into a main event or mid-card status. I think it's a shame. I really do. And I don't think Chad Gable needs to job out to anyone. In this case, I would have been okay with it had he been getting some wins under his belt. He got one lousy win and now he's back to an L. He had a string of L's and now he's back to, he got a win and then he's back to losing again. I don't know, man. I just find it crazy that Chad Gable, as talented as he is never able to be placed in a good spot where he could actually win a match. And I think it sucks. And I think it's a disservice to him. But Penta, man, he was excellent in this matchup. And after the match, he actually did a promo. He spoke better English than he did in AEW. So his English has gotten better, which is great. He's able to communicate better with the audience. He spoke half of it in Spanish, though, I will give him that. But he spoke a majority of his promo in English, which I think is amazing because normally he couldn't do that in AEW. So I'm glad he's learning the English language and everything. I think it's a great deal. His accents got better. He's more clear and so forth. So, great promo. I think the promo was great. I wish we would have gotten feedback on what he was saying in Spanish so we knew what the hell his whole promo was really about. Unless he stated everything that he stated in English and Spanish afterwards. If he did that, then, whatever. But this was a good promo. I enjoyed what he had to say. He was emotional. He was introducing his family in the audience. And I thought it was great. Great stuff. What they go ahead and do from here, that's to be seen. I honestly think him being in the Royal Rumble would be a smart idea. He ain't got nothing else he's going to be able to do at the Royal Rumble pay-per-view. Give him a spot at the Royal Rumble match itself. Have him eliminate one or two people. He's going to get eliminated, but, give him a decent showing. Like 10, 15 minutes in the Royal Rumble in the very beginning. You put him in the 10th spot or something like that. That's fine. He gets a little bit of airtime in the ring, doing some stuff in the Royal Rumble, eliminate one or two people, and there you go. You giving him some sort of recognition in the Royal Rumble itself. So I would be totally cool with that. I think if Chad Gable, by the way, is in the Royal Rumble, to give him some love and a rub here, I would say put him as an Iron Man in the Royal Rumble. Have him eliminate quite a few people, like, 5, 6 people. And have him last all the way up till about the final 6 guys. Because I would definitely do that. I think the man deserves it. He's been doing enough. It's time for him to get his flowers and get some recognition at least. But that's just my opinion. Judgment Day Clubhouse. Finn Balor is with JD McDonough and Carlito. Liv Morgan walks in with Raquel Rodriguez. Balor smirks and says he was just saying she'll be champion again real soon. Morgan says it wasn't just being champion, it was about taking a piece of Rhea Ripley. Morgan did that. And Dominic Mysterio walks up with bouquet of roses, and Morgan says she's not mad, but if he could get her bags and Raquel's from the car, oh, and make sure the valet is ready for them at the end of the night. And Morgan walks off, and Mysterio doesn't think she's mad at all, which is a load of bullshit. She is. And Baylor, McDonough, and Carlito scoff. They think he's silly as shit, and he needs to learn a lot more about women. Mysterio's offers to be at ringside Baylor's match against Damian Priest, but Baylor tells him to worry about his girl. And Sheamus heads to the ring. He's 2-1 against Kaiser, and they are to battle next. My thoughts on this match between Sheamus and Kaiser. I thought this was a good matchup as well. Good, stiff competition, but it's been done so many times, it's becoming repetitive. I think it's time for us to move on from this. And if they're gonna go in a direction where we're going ahead and using Kaiser and Sheamus to actually have a match, let it be over an Intercontinental title, which is what comes next for Sheamus. Sheamus celebrates with Pat McAfee before getting into a shoving match with WWE IC Champion Braun Breaker. I thought that was, and the intensity Braun Breaker brought to that shove was fucking unreal. You can feel the intensity when Braun Breaker's on television. He brings it all out. He is straight up in your face, as real can get. And I think it's excellent way of conducting yourself on a televised show for, pro wrestling. And I just love what he brings to the table. I really believe he should become WWE champion at SummerSlam. I really do. I think SummerSlam this year, he needs to become world champion. Whether it's on Monday Night Raw's world title or beating Cody Rhodes, something. I think he should win the King of the Ring and then win at SummerSlam. And that's the way he needs to become champion. Just my thoughts. Next, we had Kathy Kelly catching up with Seth Rollins backstage. She mentions he'll be facing Drew McIntyre next week. Rollins says McIntyre has been needling him next week. He owes him one for WrestleMania. Next week should be fun. And Rollins walks off before bumping into Sami Zayn. Zayn says he heard Rollins talking about how tough his loss was and is available to talk. Rollins says it was a rough week, but it was great for Zayn. Zayn was actually confused. Rollins says his boy, Roman Reigns, has his Ulafala back. Is Zayn going to keep on helping Reigns, or is he actually going to help himself and actually become a world champion? Rollins walks off, and Zayn looks like he's in thought. I think it was... This is our cue that Rollins is going to be turning heel. I think there's a possibility Rollins and Sami Zayn could have a match at WrestleMania. I really think that's a possibility. My thoughts of a possibility like that could happen, I think that would be a good grudge match. It would definitely give Sami Zayn something to really work with. I mean, granted, there's always the option of Seth Rollins CM Punk rematch at WrestleMania, but is that really necessary for a WrestleMania main event for night one? I don't know. I would be against it. I'd be with CM Punk winning the Royal Rumble. I think that's the guy that needs to win it. If there's someone in this Royal Rumble that you guys are aware of that I'm not, I highly doubt there is anyone at this point that's believable enough to win outside of him. He's got the best story going into the Royal Rumble and the best story coming out of it. He never had a WrestleMania main event. Him winning the Royal Rumble and challenging for the WWE title is the way to go. And if you want to have him go through a struggling effort to do that, okay, we can go along with that. I don't think it's really necessary. This guy has been through enough struggle as it is. He's had problems with injuries. He's had problems with trying to win at the Royal Rumble last year. He came short. He almost won, and he ended up being the one eliminated. I mean, he's had a rivalry with Drew McIntyre that's probably the storyline of the fucking decade of the 2020s. I don't think any storyline's going to come close to that outside of the Bloodline storyline stuff. But as a singles one-on-one rivalry, Punk and Drew McIntyre have had the best story ever told in 2020s, without a shadow of a doubt. I'm not going to say of all time, because there have been better than that. But for in 2020s, I'd have to say that is one of the best storylines that has ever been produced by this company during the 2020s. So that's just my little viewpoint there. But if you guys have any commentary that you like to leave about who do you think might be a better choice than CM Punk, let me know in the comment section down below. I mean, like I always say, you can leave a comment. I'm never shy of answering any of your comments or questions you might have. So, I'm here. Anyway, we're going to have Gunther up next. And Karrion Kross exits Raw GM Adam Pearce and tells The Miz that the Wyatt Six have been moved to SmackDown. That should be interesting how they implement them on SmackDown, because Raw, it started out decent and it just flopped. It just something happened. I don't know what the fuck it was. I don't know what they did to mess it up, but they did. I don't know. Kross warns Miz that he better not have had anything to do with that, and Sami Zayn heads to the office, but Kross stops him, and The Miz mocks Zayn for thinking he could be a world champion. Zayn says he's going to ask for a match against Miz. He actually had other plans to talk to Adam Pearce about, but he will put that on the back burner, and he got the match with The Miz. So Sami Zayn and Miz was actually official later on in the night. World Heavyweight Champion Gunther addresses the crowd. He gets to the ring. He was impressed, but less impressed with the performances in the ring from last week, and Gunther wishes they could have a roster that fulfills those high expectations. Everyone is fighting over a personal drama. Who's the head of the table? Who's the best in the world? Who cares? The only prize worth fighting for is the World Heavyweight Championship. Then next up came Jey Uso coming out, makes his way to the ring with a big reception, and Uso says he wants to step up to Gunther for the World Heavyweight title. Drew McIntyre is behind him. The Bloodline family drama is behind him. It's just him now. Uso challenges Gunther for the World Heavyweight Championship match at Saturday night's main event. That should be a good one. And Gunther wants to make sure Uso's serious about this. Uso leads the crowd in shouting, "Yeet!" And Gunther smirks and says he admires his courage. He'd be naive if he thought he could hold the title forever, or naive if he thought he could hold the title forever, but Uso's even more naive to think he could take it from him. Gunther wants him to really understand this. They've wrestled for the IC Championship twice, and Gunther beat him twice. Uso is capable of a whole lot less than Gunther is. Uso is funny, entertaining, but when the bell rings, Gunther will expose him for what he is. A really talented tag team wrestler. Uso isn't on his level, and the main event is just a nickname for Uso, and the main event is the place Gunther belongs. Gunther tells him to place him Gunther tells him to stick to his yeet and stay out of his championship business. Saturday night's main event is fine with him, but the choice is up to Uso. Gunther walks off and Uso looks conflicted. Then Jay tells Gunther to hold up. Jay respects Gunther. Everything Gunther said is true. Jay says he wakes up every morning betting on himself because he's still trying to earn respect. At Saturday night's main event, Gunther will respect him when he beats his ass for the World Heavyweight Championship. Jay leads the crowd in a loud yeet chant. I thought that Jey Uso's delivery in this promo was fantastic. A lot of intensity. It gave you some sort of slight belief that he could win, but obviously he's not going to. He is going to give us a definite match that we are going to enjoy watching between these two. They fought each other twice for the IC Championship, and they had some good matches. I really think this match should have been saved for the Royal Rumble. I don't know why we're getting Jey Uso and Gunther a week ahead before the Royal Rumble, but to each his own, I guess. I don't know. It seems kind of odd to me. I'm just saying. But it is what it is, as they would say. So they put over the they go ahead and they talk about the IC Championship. They give you a very good backstory on Dakota Kai, how she got injured, her way back into the WWE from injury, Lyra Valkyria and all that. So they gave us a very good little tidbit on what occurred between these two women, how they got here, and so forth. And now we get the Women's IC Championship match. I thought this match was fairly decent. I did enjoy it for what it was. Nothing too extravagant or amazing occurred, but it wasn't a bad televised match. Lyra Valkyria ends up being the first ever Women's Intercontinental Champion. I'd have to say Lyra Valkyria is actually a better choice than Chelsea Green for the U.S. Championship. But then again, the U.S. Championship, Chelsea Green, I think Chelsea Green was a surprise. I think that's the reason why they went with this direction. I don't think anybody was expecting Chelsea Green to actually become a U.S. champion. But I don't think she's done a terrible job with it. But I'm not too super impressed. I think Lyra Valkyria is going to give us an idea how well she can excel as a champion, which then will give us the impression that she's suitable enough to eventually challenge for the women's world title. I think a match between her and Rhea Ripley would be fantastic, honestly. The David versus Goliath type of mentality between those ladies will be fantastic. And I think we'll get a lot of... I think people would enjoy that match, honestly. I mean, granted, Lyra Valkyria will not win that match. I would not put her over Rhea Ripley. I'm sorry. That would be ridiculous. Miz versus Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn won the match. Didn't hardly pay attention. Thought the match was bullshit and didn't need to be there. Women's World Champion Rhea Ripley will be walking out next. We get her coming out. Get a big ovation. A mommy chant picks up and Ripley is happy and shouts, "Mommy is back on top." She might seem like a broken record, but she wants to remind those who have forgotten she is Rhea Ripley and she is one of the most dominant women in WWE. Now she's once again the Women's World Champion. Nia Jax heads to the ring in cheetah print jumpsuit. Crowd loudly boos her. Jax says they're rude. Jax was talking to Adam Pearce about the transfer window and couldn't help herself. She had to bring herself out here to talk to Mommy, and Jax gets in the ring. She wants to let Ripley and everyone else know she will win the Royal Rumble. She'll take whatever title she wants, and Tiffy might think she's on top, and Mommy thinks the same thing. As for Bayley, she doesn't know why she's here. Bayley would be from this nasty town. Bayley jumps over the barricade and tells Jax to come up with something different. This might not be her show, but this is her city. The crowd loudly applauds her, and Bayley tells Jax to say what she has to say to her face. Bayley calls her a big, old, dumb idiot. Wow. Jax shoves her down. Whoop-de-doo. Ripley gets in Jax's face and hits a headbutt. Jax headbutts Ripley down, and Bayley kicks Jax in the face, and Ripley finishes her off with a boot to the face, and Ripley and Bayley stand tall in the ring. Bayley was trying to grab the women's world title. Now, I don't know if that's an implication of anything. I mean, granted, we've already seen Bayley won last year. I had the pleasure of being there live and in person, front row. You'd actually see me on the screen on the third. I'm in the third row, all the way to the far right where the turnbuckle, the ring post is, and you can actually see me in between the ropes. It's hard to see sometimes because they're always moving the camera around, but there are points in time during the show you can actually see me in the front row watching the match, standing there smiling and all kinds of shit, because I was just having a blast. The crowd, literally going to these shows for me is very entertaining, just seeing how the crowd reacts to everything. Now, me as the person being there, I felt the crowd was very loud, but when I went back to watch it live on the Peacock, and it sounded so different. It really does. It sounded like we weren't even interested in the show or whatever, but I'm being honest with you guys. Me being there, we were fucking loud as shit. So it had to do something with the Tropicana Fields atmosphere, like the way the building was made, because it sounded so different when you're there and watching it at home. It really was during the entire thing. But anyway, moving on. I don't think Bayley's winning this, though, but we might see these two compete over the women's world title anyway. So after that, we had the main event, Damian Priest, Finn Balor. Great matchup. These guys went all over the place. This felt like a legitimate pay-per-view street fight. They went all over the entire arena doing this shit. Fucking doing suplexes off of high areas, going through tables. I mean, this was just fucking nuts. And I fucking had a blast watching this shit. This was fun as hell. And Damian Priest ends up winning the match with the razor's edge through a table, and then hitting the South of Heaven and getting the W and getting the victory. Finn Balor did well in this match too. Unfortunately lost, but I thought this was an excellent fucking show. Good storytelling throughout, non-stop, good matches as well. Not too many bad matches on this show, and I gotta give WWE credit. They did a fantastic job between wrestling and storytelling. All of it was fantastic stuff. I give them an A for their efforts. I think this was a 9 out of 10. I might be a little too crazy. Maybe I should drop it to 8.5 out of 10. But whatever the case may be, it was a good show. There's no denying it. There's no debate about it. And if you think the show sucked, you were watching something else. Because I don't know what the fuck you were watching. This was a show that was... You had no reason to complain. I will admit, the first hour felt like it was going by so slow. I mean, literally slow as shit. But once we got into the second hour, things started picking up. The third hour, we only had 30 minutes of it. So they kind of crunched the third hour down to 30 minutes, which I think was actually the smartest thing. I felt like there was no, boring stuff in between when you start the third hour and end it. They just went, when they hit the third hour, they just hit that main event and they did it. That's the way you need to do it. 2 hours and 30 minutes, I think, is the perfect compromise for a 3-hour show. Because 3 hours, I think, is way too long to do on a weekly televised show. I really do. I don't think it's necessary to always do a 3-hour show unless you absolutely have something worth doing in that third hour. Because that third hour always turns out to be the worst of the worst. But that's just my viewpoint. Anyway, guys, at this time, you know what to do. Hit the like button if you like the video. Hit the subscribe button if you're not already subscribed to the channel. And leave a comment down below. I'll definitely get back to you on that. Thank you guys very much for watching. And have a great night, guys. Bye.